From in the beginning to the musical apocalypse, this is The Bible Says What? I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. Worship, the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity. Such a strange concept, to worship an invisible mute being. Why would anyone want to worship something they can't see or interact with in real life? Sending someone crazy random happenstances is not communication or interaction, and it's definitely not any kind of personal relationship. To make matters worse, Psalm 136:10, to him who struck down the firstborn of Egypt, his love endures forever. The guy that killed the children of Egypt in their sleep for his own glory, that's the guy whose love endures forever. That's the documented child killer Christians have chosen to worship. Let's start the show.
Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I
didn't figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
Today's special guest is podcaster and leadership coach Cartwright Morris. Welcome to the show, Cartwright.
Man, it's great to be here, Michael.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I help leaders, specifically business owners, entrepreneurs. A lot of my clients somehow organically become sales guys as well, just guys in business generally who want to grow in their leadership. And that's not necessarily related to just business. I'm finding a lot of guys who are leading are living in isolation. And it's like they just need somebody to bounce off ideas, talk through stuff. It's funny. I've had this happen a couple of times. I'll get like a wife who will encourage me. She gets tired of getting all the complaints. So she's like, you need to talk to somebody about this. So that's generally where I get a lot of my clients. So yeah, I just like to help leaders really grow and step into more of their stuff in a more rounded way and really step into that calling and gifting and kind of enjoy more of their life because it can kind of be lonely and stressful.
Life can definitely be lonely and stressful. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So what's one of like the major problems you see with these leaders?
You know, I would really say it's isolation. I mean, I said that before, but it's you just get in your silo and you think you can only, I don't know, this could be our upbringing, a more masculine thing that we just kind of get in our world and we think the solution to our problem, I have to figure this out. I can't let anybody else in. Or there's a bad core belief that they can't trust anybody with some of their struggles. And so they just end up kind of in this cycle and therefore like they're more stressful. They're more anxious. They just struggle making decisions. And it's like, how do I get out of that isolation and really find the solutions? And a lot of that is in relationship. I mean, women, they do this well. They do this naturally. Where men, like, it's hard to really, I like to say women are really good at the face-to-face relationships. Men are better at the shoulder-to-shoulder. Like, we can go watch a game. We can go do something and hang out. But we're going to kind of keep it surface level. And where women, they'll dive deep in. Right.
I like diving deep in, man. I don't know. You probably,
I'm the same way. I think that's what we like podcasters. We're tired of the surface level stuff.
Let's dive in. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out, man. 100%. No, I'm definitely that face to face. I mean shoulder to shoulder as well. I mean, I guess that's fun as well. But that face to face is where shit really happens, man. That's where we get down to the nitty gritty. Awesome. So you mentioned isolation. How does that fit in with? Well, I guess we back up a little bit here. Well, describe your God to me. Who is your God? Describe. Yeah.
I mean, I believe in the God of the Bible.
Bible God.
That he is intimate, personal, all powerful. He says who he is. I mean, we can look at who my God is through the lens of Jesus, right? When we study the 4 books of the Gospels, we can have a better understanding. And when we start there, we can literally understand the Bible more. We can understand who God is more, you know?
Interesting. Lens of Jesus. Have you ever tried reversing that? Looking at Jesus through the lens of God?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think it's understand, like, I think you kind of start there. That is looking at God through the lens of Jesus. That's good. Yeah. Because I think when we
Jesus through the lens of God. Yeah.
Jesus through the lens of God. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I take the jealousy part. Let's just take the jealousy part in the Old Testament. God says he's a jealous God that punishes children. Several times he says it in there. So if I'm going to take that lens, that God lens, that jealous children punishing lens, and look at Jesus, it's going to be a different light.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think there is something to the redemptive nature of that. That we're really trying to, the Father is communicating a jealous love that can't be filled with just actions, with trying to meet up to these standard of the expectations of the law set in the Old Testament. And so when Jesus comes, he communicates that jealousy. Like, I want all of you to the point that I'm willing to lay down my life for you. And I think we really, the punishment, like you hit, that's a good point. That really, he's a jealous God to the point of punishment.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's showing that there's no standard of human beings that we could actually meet that. And Jesus had to pay that for us.
That's a tough one to start off with. I'm sorry, but
no, it is. It is.
I just kind of came.
I don't know how much I thought through that question. So, I mean, you hit me right on the spot.
No, it's good. We'll tackle more on that for sure. But I wanted, basically what I wanted to talk about was that isolation part. Do these leaders not have God with them?
Yeah, I would say that
they do have God with them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say most of my clients they have a belief in God, especially the God of the Bible, Christian God, but I mean, in Genesis 2, right? I mean, that was, God walked with Adam. Adam had God, but yet
supposedly,
God said it's not good for man to be alone. And that's when he created woman. Like, I think he made us relational.
Interesting. That's another interesting point. Thank you for bringing that up. So if God's relationship is not enough for man, how is it perfect? How is it a perfect personal relationship? How is it awesome if it's not enough?
Right. So as Christians, we believe in the triune being of God. I don't know if you've heard this before. There's
just
God
a few
Father,
times.
Right? There's God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, right? That he had perfect love within himself, right? And he just expanded it. That's all he did. He expanded it. So, and he brought us into the equation, and I think when he made us in our own image, we desire that same thing. We desire more intimacy. We desire more meaning. We desire more intentionality in our relationships. We desire a more collaborative. I think that's something that's really missing in our world today is we're more connected. We're less, really collaborative in our efforts. We're all kind of siloed.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. Isolated in your own little bubbles. And we need to collaborate more.
Yeah.
Preach it, Cartwright. Oh, man. But so the isolation part, this is what I don't understand. So if you've got this personal relationship with the almighty, most powerful, loving being in the planet, why do people still feel isolated?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I think he did make us for community, needing others.
So he gave us a need of. So he gave us isolation, that feeling of isolation, so we would need other people.
Well, I think you could find out more about him through relationship.
Interesting.
I think there's a lot of Christians that do believe that. Like, I don't need to go see a counselor. I don't necessarily need a relationship because I've got God. But I think that's a cop out. That really, I think, there is, when he made us in his image, there is God himself being reflected, and we see the vastness of who he is through reflection of other people. So he really get to discover more the nature of God by being in relationship.
Made us with that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So he made us to where he would not be enough. We would need other people.
Well, he would be enough. He just may be founded in other people, right? I think. Yeah.
Interesting. So he's found in other people.
Yeah, he's found in other people. I think he's found in nature. I think we find more of who he is through his creation.
Nature's pretty brutal, man.
Oh yeah, nature. Yeah, 100%.
So do we find
very terrifying
God in the brutal terrifyingness?
100%.
Wow.
100%. I mean, you go to the mountains, you think about like standing like just in awe as someone that could create this. But then you think about the terror of, falling off that mountain. You think about the grizzly bear that's out there.
You go.
10 times my size. And
a little hungry.
Like in a second, he could take my life if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, bears don't generally do that. They tend to pin you down and pick you piece by piece.
Ow.
I actually heard that recently. I want to actually say it was Joe Rogan that actually bears, that's the worst way to go because they'll start tearing you apart like a salmon.
Well, that sucks. I'll have to look that up to make sure that's right. But yeah, that does not sound fun. Holy cow. So being torn apart by bears is not fun. We all agree on that. But when we look at the Bible, there's a spot in there, speaking of bears, where God sends 2 bears to rip up some kids because they called somebody bald. Now, as a bald man, I understand it sucks being called bald sometimes, but you got to have some
hair. I get it. Yeah.
I mean, who cares? I got hair here. It's okay.
Well, I wish I could grow hair here, Michael.
I wish I could grow it on top, but we're in our different worlds. So being ripped apart by a bear sucks. So do you think that's a holy, righteous, or good, or loving act to do? Or do you think that even happened? That's a good question.
Oh, I have no idea. That's a great question. It's weird. It's a strange thing. Yeah. But I mean, God, the harshness of some of those Bible verses is just insane, especially like I'm sure there's many times we see little punk kids bullying people. We probably want some bears, but
I don't know. It's pretty harsh, man. It's pretty harsh.
Oh man, that's interesting. Justice is interesting. The fascination. What does justice really mean? I mean, because you're right, that's just straight up bullying, but like to the point of death.
Yeah,
like that's a whole nother level of justice. I don't grasp. I don't understand.
Pretty harsh.
Yeah, it's interesting. Where in the Bible is that? Because I know the verse.
2 Kings 2:23-25.
Yeah, it was Elijah they're making fun of, weren't they?
Elisha. Yeah, Elisha had a bald head, and he called God and said, God, send down his spirit into the bears, and they killed 42 kids. Like, ripped them apart. 42 of the boys.
Man.
Yeah.
Man.
God allowed that. It was a jealous God, so he was pretty upset. I don't know.
There's some harshness, man.
Yeah.
Because I think what we see in the Old Testament is we see, like, there is like this. It's hard to even say holy anger because you would hear that and you're like, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't sound.
There's an anger of holy. Like, here's the standard, right? And God does not like when people don't meet the standard.
Interesting.
But then he realizes, but he, I think, and we as Christians believe from the beginning, he knew we could never live up to the standard.
Well, that's why he's crappy of him to make us that way.
100%. Man, but it's man. I mean, that's a tough verse to reconcile. 100%.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them in here, man. There's a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And if we're getting our standard, if God is our standard of good, if God is our standard for morals, and we can understand God by reading His book, the things I've read about God make him a monster, an egotistical maniac in some points. So, I mean, how do we connect these verses to the God that you worship? Are you really worshiping the same guy who sent down bears to tear apart kids? I mean,
yeah. I mean, but then I guess. Yeah. I would say, yeah, I am. I absolutely am. And for whatever, this is the standard. So, and then therefore, I guess it always comes back to, but who am I to take the position of the standard of
I am
the
a human being
of right
with
and wrong?
with common sense and a rational brain. I can say that these things are bad, and I'm not going to worship somebody that does bad things.
Worship somebody that does bad things.
You know? I mean, I'm not going to worship anybody to begin with. I think worship is a very strange concept. But I'm not going to worship somebody who does these kinds of things. The flood, the story of the Passover. God, the Passover, such a disgusting story. So many bad things in there. So many. Like it just
killing the firstborn. Yeah.
Oh, and the reason for it was premeditated. Well, anything he does is premeditated, I guess, because he knows everything. But he started off by saying, I'm going to harden his heart so that I can kill his kid. That's how God starts off that story. It's terrible. It's very terrible. And then just yesterday, I was doing a little Bible study, and then I came across a verse in Ezekiel that kind of, well, I'm just going to read it here. God claims that he does this. I will give you, Ezekiel 36:26. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh, and I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful of my laws. So he's able to do that to people. He's able to give them new hearts. Why didn't he do that with Pharaoh? Like, instead of hardening him and killing people and slaughtering people. And then even Exodus 14:17, he decides to harden all of the Egyptians. It's like, holy cow, man, calm down. Just like, well, what if he gave Pharaoh a new heart, a kind heart that replaced it, and there was no more slaves, and they all became Jewish, and everybody worshipped Yahweh? Like, why all the death and destruction and chaos? It just doesn't add up for me. There's so many things, Cartwright.
100%. And I think if you go in there looking for that, you will find it.
Well, where's the good stuff? Tell me the good stuff.
Well, I would say the good stuff is, at the end of the day, I think God does value choice.
Okay.
You know, and that's what you start when you're reading the New Testament, is for freedom that Christ has been sent. For freedom, you've been set free. Like, there is the desire.
Who had me in bondage?
What?
Who was holding me? Who was keeping me captive?
I mean, we would say that we live in a fallen world. We live in a sinful world.
Who created it?
Well, God created the world, and we brought sin in.
God created it this way. God could have created it without sin, but he chose to create it this way.
Because the power of choice.
The power of the trees. The pointless trees. You could have put those trees on the moon, Cartwright. That would have been a lot smarter of a choice. But no, he needed man to fall so he can create this world this way, the way he wanted it.
Or he values reward.
Well, what do you mean?
Like, he values the choice so that there is reward. When there is no choice, we become robots.
Do angels have a choice?
Yeah.
So they have free will?
Yeah, I believe so.
So when the angels are in heaven, they're able to sin?
I think so. Yeah.
Perfect
that's what
heaven.
we learned from the story of Lucifer, right?
Yeah. So how is heaven a perfect place then?
I don't know.
I mean, how are we not going to be robots in heaven if I'm able to sin in heaven? If we're able to disobey God in heaven, how is that a perfect place? How is sin able to enter heaven?
Well, I mean, I would say Lucifer, he became, I mean, this is going back to worship, right? That word.
Circle around. I love
it. is Lucifer became, he saw himself and he thought he was better. Where I would say in heaven, when we, and this is, I think, in the real world, is we live, when we're in awe of God and we're in awe of Jesus and who he is, the self becomes, we think of ourselves less. Where Lucifer, he sinned because he saw himself and he thought he was the greatest thing ever. And he was on an equal footing with God. And that's what led him to sin.
Is he on an equal footing? Does he know he's not on an equal footing?
I have no idea.
Oh, I mean, God created him. I mean, he would think that God's more powerful.
He's a created
than
being.
Him. Yeah. So, I mean, at that point,
no, he's not.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get back to Satan there. But why would he create Satan? Did God know what Satan was going to do?
I don't know. Yeah, I would say, I mean, this is a discussion even within Christians, right?
Yeah.
That there is like, oh, God knew, he predestined this.
Premeditated, man.
Led to the fallen world, which created choice where beings could choose him out of love and not out of obligation.
What happens if we don't love him?
Now that is another gray area within Christians. It's like, okay, well, the wages of sin is death, right? In Romans. Okay, what is death? Is that hell? Is that eternal damnation? Is that fire and pitchforks? Right? Or is that just cease existence?
What does Cartwright believe?
Does Cartwright believe? That's the one I've been thinking over recent years. I'm like, and it's controversial. I mean, because you really just don't know what is the end all judgment, the weeping of gnashing of teeth that's been used. I would say separation from God. That's the obvious one.
I'm separated from God right now, and I'm doing just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, dude doesn't live in my heart, not in my head. He's not in my house. I mean, so I'm separated from God. So is this supposed to be the hell that we're all enduring?
No, I don't think so. Because I would say in this life, we're all have some being held together by God in some way. I mean, even the molecules in our body and cells are being held together because he exists.
Interesting. How does that work? That's quite a claim there. He's holding my molecules together. Like, is his hands around me right now, like pushing every molecule back in, or is he using his superpowers with his mind? And how does it work?
I couldn't tell you that. I have no idea. That's
such a weird thing.
I believe to the core of me, a conviction that I believe I am being held together because he exists. He is that big.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Such a weird statement. I love it. Thank you, man. As far as where were we? Satan. Yes. He knows he created Satan.
Talk about him, huh?
That guy. He knows he created him. He knows what was going to happen. But he did it anyways. And hell, that's where we were at. Sorry, I apologize. Hell, that's what we were talking about. So as far as hell goes, as far as I go, when I die, am I just going to be separated? Is God going to put me on a beach somewhere just where he's not? Or I mean, would he want me to suffer in some way? Like, how does that work?
Oh man, does God want me to suffer?
Yeah.
Oh, like as in like eternal damnation suffer?
Yeah, just, even like, because some Christians claim that being away from God is painful. And I don't think that's true, because obviously I'm away from God now and I'm not in pain. Besides I'm 41 years old, the normal pains that come with that.
Right.
But I mean, that's it. It's so weird to me. And even as a loving father, if God is supposed to be the ultimate role model of a loving father, if my kids didn't love me or want to be with me, I wouldn't send them someplace that would hurt them or harm them in any way. I would still make sure that they can be happy. You know what I mean? It just doesn't add up for me. A lot of stuff doesn't add up for me. Pretty much most.
Right. Yeah, I can tell. I mean, that's where I'm at, Michael, where I am wondering, what does that look like? I mean, that's why I would say there's some, I think it's called an annihilationist. Have you heard of this? Where they just cease to exist.
Yeah.
There's not, the separation is not putting them, where they're, as you said, suffering.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of C.S. Lewis he would say in his book, oh man, well, my brain lost.
You're good.
Is it Mere Christianity? No, there's another. It's a fictional book. Anyway, it's really good. Where he basically talks about it's usually their choice is to live in separation from God. Like, I mean, you're clearly like, hey, I'm completely good with it.
It's my choice. I'm good.
Like, and I would, even those who experience heaven would rather go back to hell in a sense and live in that existence.
Heaven. Yeah, it doesn't sound like much fun to me. Have you read about this place? Streets are made of gold. There's like jewels everywhere. Not my kind of thing. Not my kind of thing. You got to sing praises to this guy every day.
Wait, you don't have bedazzled rings on your hand?
I stay away from everything bedazzled. It's not my thing. Some people like it. That's whatever. More power to you. But just keep it out of my heaven. I don't know. It's not my idea of heaven.
I mean, and I would say that analogy is, especially in the context of that would be an allegorical thing, because that was beauty. That was wealth. That was to them, yeah. So the people that wrote the Bible
came up with this idea that would be a great idea what heaven would be like, so they wrote it down. Doesn't mean it's actually what heaven is like. Doesn't mean that's actually God in there. You know, all these stories.
I would say, I would say someone I very admire. They say a lot of what our life on earth is freedom practice, because when we get to heaven, we'll have unlimited freedom.
Will you? I don't know, man. It says you're going to be Yahweh's slave. You're going to have his name tattooed on your forehead. There's not going to be any night, and you're going to have to sing in praises day and night. Or all day. It doesn't sound like fun to me, man. I don't know.
Well, and also you're looking through the lens of church, singing in praises. I mean, that's where a lot of kids
too. Yeah.
You know, a lot of kids, I would say there's a lot of people, you know, growing up, they're like, I don't want to go to heaven because that looks like going to church all day. And I would agree with them from that standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like most of the way our modern church is just, it's limited, is to put it mildly.
Yeah.
A little too structured, a little bit too choreographed.
Was it more crazy, more wild up in heaven? Is that what you think?
Could be.
Like a rock concert? Everybody's freaking out. Jesus! I don't know. Such a weird concept. I love it. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Values choice. Yes. Now, the choice part of it. If I never showed up to you or talked to you or anything, and you denied my existence, you'd be in the right to deny my existence. You've never seen me. You've never heard me. You never any of that. So how is it your choice at that point to not believe in something you've never seen or heard?
Yeah. I mean, there are people who would say that. I mean, it's a great question because it's a common one. I mean, people say God is revealing himself in nature, you know.
Well, that could be any creator God is revealing themselves in nature. I mean, it could be anybody. Let's just pick one. Let's pick one that came before yours. Kali Ma, the creator goddess. All right. That I see her in nature. She came before your God, so therefore she's the creator. How do we decipher who the right one is? Is it the oldest one? Or is it just, I don't know, a feeling? How do we do that? How do you do that?
The way we would say it is, not too many gods came in the manifest version of man. Okay, this is there's been many of those, right? Came as a man, lived that life, and then died and was resurrected.
There's a lot of died and resurrected gods. There's tons of them.
Died fully as a man.
Fully as a man. Wait, hold on. Yeah. Wasn't Jesus part God? Isn't he like a demigod? He's half man, half God.
Well, everyone would say that he would. The language is we say he's fully God and fully man. Right?
But he lived his life as a man. That's not how math works. He can't be 100% man, 100% God. Oh my God! Let's go back to math class. Let's not. I hate math.
Michael, and let me just say it. I mean, I fully volunteered to come on, but let me just say, like, I get why you don't get it.
Yeah.
And I get the way I sound probably to a lot of your listeners is like, oh yeah, that guy. But there's something in the core of me that I've experienced too much. I know too much to go back.
I hear that. And I feel the same way. I've looked behind the curtain. I've seen Oz working the machine. The Wizard of Oz, if that's his name, I don't remember. But overrated movie. Oh, I said it out loud. There it is.
Talk about dark.
Oh, man.
Having a guy hanging in the back.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of Disney films. I think Tarzan had that too. The guy's hanging in a little shadow. And oh man, good stuff. Disney. It's lots of fun. But
talk about overlords. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
I forgot what I was talking about. Dang it. Lost track.
I distracted you. Choice. Is that where you're at?
Yeah, we'll go back to that choice. Yeah. So how is it my choice when he's never shown up? If I had a dad that never showed up why would I love this father of mine? How would I call him my father if he's never shown up? And how is that my choice? It's his choice. He never showed up to prove to me that he's real.
Right.
Has he shown up for you? You said you've had experiences that you can't think. That's where we're at, behind the curtain. I've looked behind the curtain. I've studied the Bible. I've seen in there the things that he has supposedly done and where they came from, the people before that.
Yeah.
So how does that work for you, though?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I have had a personal encounter with God.
So like a physical person showed up and said, "Hi, I'm God."
No, I wouldn't say
Okay.
that.
Okay. What was it? What was this? The best evidence you got? What was the thing that convinced you the most?
Well, one is just the complete change in how I live and operate. That fruit of that experience, right? There's a complete mindset shift, and my behavior changed.
Well, I did that
right?
too. I used to be an asshole, but now I'm not. I mean, you mature. It's called maturing. I don't need
Well,
God
did you
for
have a
that.
moment that changed that?
Lots of little moments through my life. There's just moments, that you come to realizations. You're like, oh shit, I shouldn't probably say those things, or I shouldn't probably act like that. You come to these realizations in life. I did all of that.
Yeah.
After I left Christianity, so none of it was done by God.
Oh, so you have an experience in the church?
I did. I grew up in the church.
Yeah. Okay.
Pastors.
What denomination?
Evangelical. Holy roller, all that. Yeah.
Okay.
Laying on hands, the spirits and the tongues.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Some crazy things, man.
Yeah, man. Dude, I mean, I've been involved in a charismatic church, non-denominational, and I'm with you. There's some stuff that's really weird. It'll weird you out.
That's for
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So
I mean, I would say, to your experience.
What was your experience? What was the one?
One, it was, you actually do feel like it's like a weighted blanket. You feel a difference physically and in your senses, like there is a change in the environment.
So you change your attitude and there's a change in the, people call that a ghost too. Like, oh, there's a ghost in here. The room temperature changed, things like that. I don't believe in ghosts either. But so how do you know it's your God sending you these feelings or changing your mind or brain instead of yourself or another God? How do you know it's not another God sending you these feelings?
How do I know it's not another God?
I mean, it could be Doctor Strange manipulating your mind from another universe. It could be anything. But you've chosen Yahweh. Why?
Yeah. Well, I would say the fruit, the experience that I had was consistent with what I read in the Bible.
Okay. Explain the fruit.
And what I've taught. What?
Explain the fruit. Let's dive into that.
Fruit.
Well, I mean, talking about.
Right. Yeah. I would say I'm a kinder person. I am a more self-aware person. I am a more hopeful person. I, experience, have a higher value system for others more. I'm more less self-absorbed.
And all this comes from God.
100%.
Higher value for life.
Mm-hmm.
Comes from God. I think we're just looking at the Jesus lens again. Look through the God lens and then look through it. So you mentioned kinder and you have a higher value for human life, essentially. Why do you think God is kind and has a high value for human life?
Why do you think he sent his son? I mean, all right, so God to Jesus, right?
So he sent his son to die because he was angry at people and was unable to forgive them without bloodshed. You think that's kind?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my God!
He didn't have to. He didn't have to send his son.
He didn't have to. No, actually, yeah, no, 100%. Hebrews 9:22. Without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. God can forgive without blood, but he refuses to. So because he's so mad at people, I'm just going to ask you straight out: would Cartwright slaughter the innocent to forgive the guilty?
Probably not, but I don't think like God, so.
Right, because we're not monsters. Yeah. We're kinder than that. We hold human life in more value than that. He doesn't. Daniel 4:35, he says, he does all that he pleases with the powers of the heaven and the peoples of the earth. They are regarded as nothing. He does not hold a higher life in a higher value. The Passover, we just talked about the Passover. That whole entire thing was pointless. He did not have to kill anybody, but he wanted to show off his powers. He says it a couple places there. He wanted to show off how powerful he was. He wanted everybody to see how cool he was. And the Egyptians still didn't worship him. That was part of the thing too. They never worshiped him. One of my favorite one is Exodus 3:22. You will plunder the Egyptians. Yeah, that didn't happen either. Great story. Great story. Full of great morals. Oh my God. So
Yeah.
that's why what I'm seeing. Those aren't kind gestures. Those
Mhm.
aren't humans in value, holding humans in a high value. Man, that word for me.
Yeah.
I don't see that. Where do you see him holding us in a high value? Where do you see him being kind? I mean, Jesus, I can't see that as kind, man. Killing something because you're unable to forgive people, that's
Yeah.
not kind. That's ruthless and pointless. I don't. Yeah. So where's the kind? Anything besides that? Give me another one.
Well, I mean, I would, it's to forgive someone. There is always a price to it, right?
Right, but it's not bloodshed, Cartwright.
Not bloodshed.
And we're not killing the innocent to forgive people. Like, what a thing. I have to kill something that's completely innocent in order to forgive you. But I'm a loving God.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound...
Well, I mean, the other option is our death, right?
What do you mean?
And we're not innocent. I would say we're like going, I mean, we'll go back to the health thing, but I mean, it's the complete separation from God, right? So
what do you mean?
Well, I mean, if there is no forgiveness, as there is no sacrifice, we still live in separation. We
can't hang out with God.
What?
We can't hang out with God we
can't live a internal.
If God doesn't kill himself to himself, he won't let us hang out with him.
All right.
Cartwright, come on.
Well, I mean, I would say there's something beautiful in that. I would say there's something inviting to that.
How is that beautiful?
Yeah. Well,
if I told you I can't hang out with you unless I kill your cat.
That sounds pretty dark. Yeah.
That sounds pretty dark. But if God can't hang out with you unless he kills himself to himself, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. It's just not registering for me. I don't understand.
Well, I would say it's well, I mean, you got to think of the context of the price equivalent.
Okay.
Right. I mean, the thing is the greatness of our sin, what
is so horrible that you did that he has to kill himself? What is so horrible?
So horrible. I mean, but there's a lot of people that done a lot worse than me.
There's a lot of people that are a lot worse. From what I know of you, you seem like a decent human being. You don't deserve hellfire or separation or death or any of that. I don't understand. Help me understand, Cartwright.
I mean, what does decent mean? What is that?
Well, I don't see you as a documented child killer. We can start off with that.
Okay.
I mean, you haven't killed any children that I know of, right?
Not a murderer, not a drug dealer,
you're not a child killer. Let's start off with that one. God is. God is.
Okay.
So can we judge him as two people, normal human beings who have not killed children? Can we judge a child killer? Are we allowed to?
Yeah, I would think so in our society. Yeah.
So why can't we judge God in the same manner?
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't. And then he tells us we're broken. He tells us we're bad. Yeah. This guy that drowns puppies tells us that we're bad. Dude, I think he's got a little backwards here. That just doesn't add up. How does that up for you? How does that work?
Well, that adds up to me in the context of like, who am I to put myself in the place of him?
You're somebody who doesn't drown puppies.
What?
You're somebody that doesn't drown puppies.
I mean, I think there's more nuance to that in my mind.
Please explain to me the nuance for drowning puppies.
I mean, one is context, is translation.
What is the context? Was that puppy rabid? I mean, why did he have to drown all the puppies on the planet?
He drowned all the puppies in the... Oh, you're talking about the flood. Oh,
yes.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. You got me. I mean, man, I was not there in that place in time. I don't know historical context. For whatever reason, he did. And he saved a small portion.
A small family. Yeah.
Small family and 2x2 animals, right?
Weird story too. So
yeah,
when the animals got off the boat, what did the lions eat?
Oh, Probably something that was out there and that was already on the boat, right? Maybe that's where, it doesn't add up. Huh?
Yeah.
Can't do that math.
How did those penguins get to Antarctica?
Mm-hmm.
How did the fish survive saltwater and freshwater being mixed together?
Right.
There's so many problems here.
Right.
Many problems with Noah's Ark and the Bible in general, but Noah's Ark we're talking about right now. Yeah. And like, what did all the meat eaters eat? Something had to have gone extinct at some point. It just doesn't add up for me. It just doesn't work. And then it tells you that the ark went up the higher than the tallest mountain. Well, how did they breathe? Wouldn't it be freezing up there?
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of things just don't add up.
Yeah, if you're higher than Everest.
Yeah. How are they breathing? Did God get a little oxygen bubble over there? Like, I don't know. It's just nonsense to me. And then did no one know? Did he warn everybody on the planet? Of course not. He didn't have a telephone system. Dude didn't even have a megaphone. Hey, there's a flood coming. How far does that reach? The next town at the most, the next person's going to like, how is that a sufficient warning for the planet? By the way, I'm going to drown you all and your puppies. Yeah.
There's probably some full-grown dogs on there.
Right? But I'm worried about the puppies, man. That's the harshest part. The harshest part to me is the puppies, the kittens, the babies, all these infants and toddlers pointlessly drowned because God regret making what he made on purpose, knowing he would regret to make it later.
Yeah, when you do that logic, I get it. I get why you don't like it.
It's just, again, it doesn't add up for me. I don't get why. I just don't understand why you're still a believer at this point. Like, these things are in there. He doesn't talk to you. He doesn't show up to your birthday party. He's never actually said anything. So why are you a Christian? I mean, you said you've had feelings and experiences, but these experiences aren't actual sightings and verifiable.
Nope, I wouldn't say it's verifiable evidence.
Yeah. So why believe at that point?
Why do I believe at this point?
Yeah.
What's the alternative?
To just not believe in fairy tales.
Not believe in fairy tales.
I mean, Noah's Ark. We can dissect that down to nothing, and it's obviously a fairy tale. Obviously, a lot of things in here are obviously fairy tales.
Yeah, and I would say from our 2023, it 100% sounds like a fairy tale, but we don't really understand the full weight and context and I mean, there's just so many other factors that we have no idea about. And I would say the reason why I'm a Christian is, man, I've been depressed. I've been suicidal. I have tried to go after what this world has for me, and especially according to the culture I live in, and it is nothing but a wasteland. It's boring. Wow. It's hard. It's difficult.
Life is hard. And difficult.
Most people will just move, go somewhere else. Well, I tried that. What'd you say?
I said life is difficult. Absolutely. Hard and difficult. That's life, regardless if you have God on your side or not. No matter what invisible friend you choose, it's life is difficult.
I would say, and I would say even as Christians, we have the promise of suffering that's been told, of pain and disappointment.
It's just life, man. They can promise you all that want, but in reality, that's just how life works. It's pain and suffering. You got to get through it. Make the best.
But we don't suffer for nothing. And I think when you have that eternal value, there always is something. I'm not even saying after this life. I'm saying just even here and now.
In this life. So God wants you to suffer.
I think he wants us to, live this life where it's hard, it's difficult, because people that are, you know any trust fund kids? I know them. They don't end up very good.
But I'm telling you right now, I don't want my children to suffer. I'm not going to put things in their way so that they will suffer on purpose. I'm not going to give them a trial just so that they'll be a better person. I'm not going to do that. God does that. God puts these things in front of us. God allows these things to happen to us. How is that a loving father? Let's say a kid with cancer.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What good is that? And who gave him that cancer? Is it God or is it Satan? And if Satan did it, God knew he was going to do it, and he created him anyways. Yeah. So essentially, God gave that kid cancer.
Yeah, you could say that.
Why?
I mean, that's where in our seat, in our limited right here in front of us, we don't see the full picture.
It's not rational. It's not logical to give a child cancer for
100%.
any reason.
Yeah.
But you worship a guy that does.
I wouldn't say that. I mean,
Okay.
I know a friend who died of cancer, and he went into cancer wards and he prayed for people and he saw them healed. I would, you know,
I don't buy it. But I mean,
you know,
if prayer
he
worked,
was
we wouldn't
kind
have,
to his.
we wouldn't
He
have
didn't
hospitals.
use his situation to be bitter and angry, but he actually used it to love and be kind and see change in their life and saw people's lives change, not even just the physical.
If prayer worked, it wouldn't be allowed in casinos.
Oh, well,
If
I mean,
prayer
that's putting a
worked,
transaction on it, right?
That's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. It's a transaction. You ask and he does it. He heals a kid, apparently. Some of them, but not all of them, which is weird.
So,
And
I mean, it sounds like you are. It sounds like you are an atheist, so you have no belief that there is something outside of the physical.
No, I don't believe in invisible people.
Don't believe in invisible people. That there's something going on beyond what we can see and touch and understand.
There's a lot going on that I can't see and touch and understand. It happens in space. It happens across the world. Stuff like that. Yeah, no, I believe that, but I don't believe there's invisible people controlling that. That's the difference.
Okay.
Or visible people created that. I think it's just
But I mean, things
natural.
even like hope and love and
I believe in hope
joy.
and love. Of course.
You know?
My life is not boring. As an atheist, my life is extremely exciting. Especially talking to Christians. I love it. It's my favorite part. I love getting down and dirty, man. I love it.
You've done this a lot. I have not, and I'm kind of glad. This is good.
Good. No, I'm glad you're here, man. Thanks for taking it. No, I mean, like, a lot of Christians don't take the questions very well, and you're doing awesome. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Sam.
But it's not boring. It's not boring. Like you mentioned, it'd be boring without God. Why would it be boring without God?
I mean, well, and I would say that's probably from my experience is it's just taking what's directly in front of me, living a life according to what I know, my education, my skill set. Like I would be so limited in what I could do. Where now I have a grasp of such a larger that bigger things can happen because of my belief, and things have happened. Doors have been opened to me that shouldn't be open to me. I've experienced things that I shouldn't be able to experience. But in my own little world, if I believe what I did, 15 years ago, I would 100%. I don't know if I'd be here.
What is so unique about a door that opened that it's God that opened it for you?
Well, it just shows that there's something beyond just me making this happen, that I don't have to 100% trust me
to
experience a more valuable, more enjoyable future.
What's the difference between God opening a door and a random happenstance?
A random happenstance.
Those happen to me all the time.
Is one is on purpose and one is random.
How do you know it's on purpose? How do you know God is sending this random happenstance on purpose? How do you know it's your particular invisible
this is
friend?
what I take a lot of my clients through, and this is what is like, you have to understand a lot of your history. A lot of what you've been through is not wasted, and it's preparing you for the future. I mean, a lot of experiences I had in my past, good and bad, has prepared me for going forward.
That's life, man. That's what that is. That's how that works.
Most people aren't aware of that.
Well,
they are not. They want to avoid their past. They don't want to look at it. Even some Christians do that. They want to belittle it. I want to forget about it. But I think a lot of that is gold. It is beautiful. I mean, I would say I have a friend who was a drug dealer. He said he was high for 2 years. And now he has an audience to speak into people in prisons and in places that he wouldn't have had if God didn't use that experience in his life.
He's using it. God didn't. God's not doing anything. The guy did the drugs. The guy stopped the drugs. The guy now talks about not doing drugs. Where's God in that?
Well, the God is in that he wrapped his truck around a telephone pole and he doesn't know how he came out unscathed. That's part of it.
So
right?
Kids with cancer, let them die. Driver who's on drugs,
save my buddy. I don't know
him so he can talk to people about Jesus.
I mean, this is what I mean.
Egotistical
you're,
monster, Cartwright. Do you see what I'm saying
Yes.
here?
Yes,
Egotistical
I
monster.
100% get what you're saying here. And I would say most people, there's a lot of Christians on the opposite of your spectrum. They don't want to even look at these problems. They don't want to struggle over them. I'm not saying as a believer, I don't struggle because I don't quite get it. Because I go with your logic and then I go with what I believe, and they don't match up a lot of times.
Well,
but there's some things to struggle on this life that is good. That when I struggle over this, that I'm figuring out who he is, why he did this, but why do I believe he's this?
I have
100%.
I've talked to several people who believe that God killed their child so that they would be closer to God or understand certain things. So how do we know which part is God and which part is not God?
Death. I mean,
because these people, that's exactly what they needed to get closer to God, to be a better person.
Yeah. So, but in my mind, I mean, like, I wouldn't say he's the God of death. But yet,
have you read the Bible
associated with God? I know. There's a lot of death associated with God.
He drowned the entire planet. He's going to destroy everybody at the end. Everybody except for those he likes who are allowed to hang out with him. How is
history's pretty dark in general, though, Michael. I mean, left to our own devices, we're pretty dark in itself.
We were made this way. He made us this way. He could have chosen otherwise.
Yeah.
So all the darkness comes from him. Isaiah
but in the darkness,
7.
there are the random situations where some people stand out, and there is a light of goodness. And I would say some of those people aren't even Christians.
I think it's
yet they are representing.
I think it's overshadowed by the death, the rape, the murder, the horrible things that are done in churches in the name of God.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all that gets outweighed by those horrible, horrible things. And God just sits there and does nothing. God planned for all of this to happen. He released the bad guy so that the bad guy could do these things.
Yeah.
How is that the good guy? In what story does the hero require bloodshed for forgiveness and release a bad guy? Yeah. On purpose. I mean, knowing exactly what he's going to do. That's not the hero of the story at all. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How is he the hero of the story for you?
How is he the hero of the story? Well, I mean, how would you articulate? Yeah, how would I say he's the hero of my story? Well, I would say, because I would say I'm on a redemption path. I would say all of us are on this life where we're trending upwards. It doesn't feel from A to B. It's probably a little bit of peaks and valleys. But I would say, yeah, I'm on a redemption path, only set in motion by him. That I'm improving, I'm growing, I'm having more influence, I'm impacting more people, that I am becoming a better husband, a better father, a better leader, because of him setting me on a different path, setting me on a place where the other one was darkness, depression, disappointment, comparison. Oh man, I was living so much comparison, comparing myself. Where now I'm like, I have a better sense of identity of who I am, of like where, I'm, I mean, it's your podcast, so I could say, fuck it. You're right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wouldn't be the first time.
I mean, and that's where, like, I'm not living according to a religious ideology that's more man-made, right? That I'm actually living according in relationship with him, that I'm figuring this out as I go. And I get to share that with others, and we get to all figure that out, and we bump heads a lot. And it doesn't look pretty. It looks messy.
Absolutely. No, humans are we're interesting creatures, that's for sure. But see, I can just go the opposite. I can do the same exact thing. I am trying to be a better person. It's up and down. Every day is different. Sometimes I'm a better person. Sometimes I'm just shit. I'm just having a bad day. It happens. But I'm not going to attribute my ups and downs to God or Satan. This is me trying to rationalize.
You cause those ups and downs in your life.
Yes, 100%. Not an invisible being who I never see interact with.
Well, so what do you think of the narcissist who constantly believes that everyone else and every other circumstance is the reason why they're not growing?
Well, I think God's the ultimate narcissist, but that's beside the point.
It all comes back.
It all comes back.
Yeah.
I can strive and I can do better, but without an invisible friend. I don't need this God, this documented child killer, to make me a better person. I'm going to push aside that monster and do what I think is right. And what I think is right is do less harm to the world around me. Do the best that I can to help others. That's what I do.
But there's some people who have your belief system is do less harm, but they end up doing harm because of that. The harm to others, right?
Well, that works with any situation, with any religion, with any non-religion. It's just human beings. Human beings are fucked sometimes. It just happens. That's the way things are, and we can try and teach them, but I don't know. That's a whole smarter people than me can think about that and figure that out. But I'm telling you about me and you right now. We can better ourselves without a documented child killer, without this invisible God who needs bloodshed for forgiveness.
But I would say I'm the opposite. I needed someone on the outside of me that's beyond me, about my own understanding,
but he wasn't
to change
there.
my understanding.
He just sent you feelings, though.
Just sent me he changed. Well, I would say it was. I heard the Boston song in the back of my mind when I was about to say that. More than a feeling. But yeah, I think there is something. There was beyond that. There was something that created a conviction in me. That created something beyond that was only connected between me and that felt only connected between me and him. That there was something unique about me that I was avoiding, that what I was devaluing because I was trying to be like everyone else, that I was trying to live according to this lifestyle that was, part of my upbringing. And I thought this was success. This was happiness. But truly finding out through him that there was something that I was uniquely made for something else. And to go live a life discovering that is so far beyond anything I could come up with or any human could come up with.
You can come up with them. People do it all the time. You discover themselves.
I agree.
Discover ourselves. Yes, that's what we do. That's how our brains work. We mature. We figure things out. We use our past to correct the future, to learn things. I don't know. We're never going to agree on that one. But I thank you so much for all of your time today.
Absolutely.
We're out of it. So go ahead and plug your podcast and your coaching stuff. Go ahead. And then
so I have a podcast called Men Are Forged. It is a lot of what me and Michael just kind of talked about. That basically, like, to me, it's like you either believe there's something being built in you. And so I hear stories, not all of them Christians, of men that live their life. They've experienced a level of happiness, success, and how they got there, right? And what experience that led them to who they are. And so that's my podcast. You could check that out on Apple, Spotify. And then I'm a leadership coach. You can go to menarforged.com and find out more about how I'm helping leaders get out of isolation and become better performers, not only in their business, but in their family and in their community.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your answers and patience, obviously. We'll keep
Great
in touch.
Conversation, Michael. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man. We'll keep in touch. I'll let you know when this comes out, man.
Sounds good.
And that's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to patreon.com/BSW the podcast and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will give you access to the patron feed, unaired conversations, early access to each episode, and much more. For the latest events, BSW swag, and a peek behind the scenes, head on over to the show's ever-evolving webpage at thebiblesayswhat.com. The Bible Says What the book is out. Head on over to thebiblesayswhat.com and get yourself and your grandma a signed copy. Thanks to the cosmic powers of the internet, it is now possible to buy me a beer or coffee online. Simply go to buymeacoffee.com/BSW the podcast and click the appropriate buttons. If you can't support the show monetarily, please like, share, and or leave a review. As always, you can find me at the Bible Says What Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram pages. You can also reach me at bswthepodcast@gmail.com. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly pick up your Bibles and read them? baby. What should I do for an Easter egg? Oh, that's always a funny one. Jesus VRs. Thank you. Coming to a YouTube channel near you, Jesus VRs. Subscribe or burn. Ah!